Most of my homily today will be coming from a homily written by Father John Alexander, who is a member of the Society of the Holy Cross and also the rector of St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in Providence, Rhode Island, on the campus of Brown University. Today's readings recall crises occasioned by a lack of water. Thirst is one of the most urgent physical longings we can experience. After leaving a portion of the Sinai referred to as the Desert of Sin, Moses and the Hebrews find themselves in a dry and wasted place called Rephidim. The people start grumbling. Why did you bring us out of Egypt to kill us and our children and livestock with thirst? This moment represents a crisis of faith as well as a threat to physical life. Even after their miraculous escape from Egypt, the Israelites doubt that the Lord who delivered them from the hands of the Egyptians can also deliver them from dying of thirst in the wilderness. Moses cries to the Lord, "What shall I do with this people? They are almost ready to stone me." The Lord tells Moses to strike the rock at a place called Horeb with his staff. When Moses does so, the water gushes out, and the people are sated. Providing water in the desert solves two problems at once. At the physical level, the people are saved from dehydration and death. At the spiritual level, God reaffirms both his presence with this community and his commitment to provide for the needs of the entire assembly wherever they go. Water streaming from the rock at Horeb becomes a sign not only of physical survival and life, but also of God's providence and care. In the reading from John's Gospel, we find Jesus traveling through Samaria. Wearied by his journey, he sits down by a well. When a Samaritan woman comes to draw water, a tired and thirsty Jesus asks her for a drink. When this unnamed woman questions how it is that Jesus is transgressing all kinds of social and religious boundaries to ask her for a drink of water, he takes the conversation to a whole new level. If you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, "Give me a drink," you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. What follows is a wonderful dialogue of double meaning typical of John's Gospel. In ancient Palestine, living water meant the kind of water you get from a spring or a running stream. Fresh, clear, flowing, gurgling, bubbly, and vital water. Not like the murky, brackish water found stagnating in wells and cisterns. When Jesus tells the woman that he can give her living water, it sounds like a pleasant alternative to what is in the well. "Sir, give me this water so that I may never be thirsty or have to keep coming here to draw water." She's probably being sarcastic, doubting that Jesus can give her such water, just as the children of Israel once doubted that God could provide water in a barren desert. But Jesus isn't speaking of literal water. Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again. But those who drink of the water that I will give them will never be thirsty. The water that I will give will become in them a spring of water gushing up to eternal life. Jesus is speaking of a spiritual gift that only he can give. Just as our bodies thirst for water, so our spirits thirst for God. Jesus is saying he has come to quench the deepest thirst of our souls. The Samaritan woman goes into the city and says to the people, "Come and see a man who told me everything I have ever done. He cannot be the Messiah, can he? Clearly, she has received the living water that Jesus was offering her. She had doubted Jesus, just as the Israelites doubted Moses in the wilderness. But just as the Israelites ended up drinking water from the rock, so the Samaritan woman ended up drinking of God's Spirit. At those times in our lives when we feel spiritually dry or even abandoned by God, we do well to remember the Israelites in the wilderness and the Samaritan woman at the well. They received a remedy for their thirst. Similarly, we trust God to quench our spiritual thirst with springs of living water, welling up to eternal life. And to these words, I would only add these few more. We're here this morning, most of us anyway, because we know that here our hunger and our thirst can be satisfied. Not for every day, but certainly for the days to come this week until we gather again. But yet at the same time, it is a filling with Christ's own gifts, his body, his blood, that satisfy the deepest longings of our hearts for God's love, understanding, compassion, forgiveness, mercy. And so, hopefully, we never take this gift for granted. And also that we remember that Jesus' greatest desire is to see all of us filled with his life, filled with that living water that he and he alone can give us. The living water we entered into first when we were baptized, and that continuously feeds our souls, our spirits, from that gift of the Spirit that Jesus has poured out upon us, as Paul mentions in the second lesson today. So we give thanks to this Lord of ours, who knows our needs better than we do, who loves us more than we can ask for or imagine, and who will give us always what we truly need, wherever we are on life's journey, to become more and more his truly holy and loving people.